So the Philadelphia 76ers suffered one of their worst losses of the season last night, but what made it exponentially worse was Doc Rivers' comments in response to a question post-game that has everybody up in flames. We are going to break it all down. You do not want to miss it. Let's go.
Perfect.
What is going on, everybody? RB here. Welcome back on into the show. Like always, hit the like button if you enjoy the content. Subscribe if you are new. Thank you for all the continued support, and hit that bell so you get all the notifications when we drop content or go live. We're back today. The Sixers suffer a brutal loss last night to the Clippers after being up 24 points. It looked like everything was clicking on all cylinders. Tyrese Maxey, Tobias, Joel, they were in their groove. And then all of a sudden, in the third quarter, going into the fourth, it collapsed. And this is something that has been seen before with this team and with Doc Rivers. Joel Embiid putting up 40 points. 40. After just putting up 50 last game, I put up a graphic on my community post of his last 15 games. The numbers are insane. The stats are wild. And I will continue to say this, honestly, on every episode up until February 10th. We cannot waste that greatness. But anyway, topic for another day. We have to get to what happened last night. Everybody is up in arms. Not only can the Sixers have a bad loss, right? Like, teams go through these types of games throughout a season. I'm not going to say that the Sixers should be doing it, but it happens sometimes. You have a big lead, you blow it. Seems like it happens a little more under Doc Rivers, but it is what it is in terms of the situation. This is going to be one of them games where it kind of stings, and then when you get to the next game and you get a couple games down the road, you just have this in the back of your mind later down the season, but you aren't thinking about it. It's not like hot on the stove like it is right now. And the Sixers have a pretty fair schedule coming up the next couple games that we should win, and I wish we could have got the win last night, especially going up against a Clippers team without Kawhi and without PG. But anyway, what I am sitting here frustrated about is the fact that the loss has to be made even worse, and that is by one Doc Rivers and his comments post-game. Now, Doc has had his runs with the Philly media. You know the saying, right? Like, nobody hates the players and coaches more than the Philly media. Nobody hates the Philly media more than the coaches and the players, okay? But let's be fairly objective here. Let's be honest. When I listened to the question, shout out to Austin Krell, Sixers beat reporter. We actually had him on the channel before, if you remember. And obviously a couple weeks ago, we made a video about Doc Rivers going at Keith Pompey, who we also had on the channel. Both are great guys. Both do great quality work. And they're excellent guys, like in terms of covering the team. And I've listened to the question about 5 times, and let me be completely honest. It was a fair question. It was a fair question, especially after blowing a 24-point lead. Obviously, the Sixers blew 2 leads in the playoffs last year. And there's been a lot of drama. There's been a lot of stuff. And I'm just so frustrated because it's like we have other things to worry about, especially with a couple weeks ago into the trade deadline. And here we are sitting wondering why Doc Rivers has to add on more to the loss. But anyway, let's listen to the question and what Doc Rivers had to say.
Doc, what part of this loss would you attribute to coaching?
I don't know. Would you ask Pop that question? No, you wouldn't. So don't ask me that question. I've earned that.
All right. So obviously I was on board with the Doc Rivers hire a couple years ago, right? We go from Brett Brown to Doc Rivers, a guy who I felt had credibility, and he was, known for holding people accountable. And I'm not going to say Doc hasn't done anything good here, because he has. And I want to get behind Doc. This entire basketball city, we want to get behind this team so bad. We want to get behind these players, this coach. But I'm having trouble to understand why there are so many individuals that just take that for granted. I like 2-5, right? Even Danny Green sometimes when he makes the comments, or, even Miles Sanders did it with the Eagles, or, Tobias clapping back at the fans. That wasn't as serious in my opinion, but Doc Rivers now multiple times. I just don't understand. This city wants to get behind you. This media group, they're asking fair questions. Austin Krell asked a very, very fair question. He said, how much of this loss do you contribute to coaching? And now, in my personal opinion, Doc did some good things last night. He did some bad things. Now, he was obviously limited. There were some things I didn't understand. But at the end of the day, nobody around Joel Embiid stepped up in the second half, especially going down the stretch. Our shooters, right, the guys who are supposed to spot up and hit shots, did not show up late in the game. Our role players, right, have been saying we need some more lethal scoring off the bench. And you know what? This team, after I gave them so much credit, for coming out in the third quarter and looking so locked in defensively, they just lost all that in the fourth, and they got lackadaisical, and they took their foot off the gas pedal, and they allowed the Clippers to come back in the game. And when Joel Embiid went out for a stretch of like 7 minutes, they came all the way back. They trimmed it down. That's pretty much why we lost. Joel needs help. And Daryl Morey, I hope you're watching this. I hope you see that he needs help. But anyway, for Doc Rivers to then respond to his question by not only saying, don't ask me that question, because obviously that's his job. Then you say, would you ask Greg Popovich that question? Now, Doc, with all due respect, you've been in the league, 35 years, player and coach. You've won 1 championship, all right? In the last 7-8 years, you have blown, 3 leads? And you've blown 4 total in your career. 1 with the Sixers, 2 big ones with the Clippers, and 1 with the Magic. In the last 8 years, you've had the likes of CP3, Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, JJ Redick, Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Joel Embiid. And you've blown how many leads? You haven't got out of the second round, Doc Rivers. So you're comparing yourself to Greg Popovich, who's won 5 championships, who is maybe the greatest coach of all time, or at least top 3? Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here, Doc? We are halfway into the season, and why can't we just let this loss go? Why do you have to make it so much exponentially worse? Why? And then you say, I've earned that. What have you earned, Doc? And look, I like Doc Rivers in terms of the hire and coming in here, like making these players play in a better system. But like I said last year, after blowing that lead, like if you don't step it up and have a great year, you're probably on the hot seat this year, Doc. We want to get behind you, but why do you constantly attack other people who are just asking fair questions? Like, again, a couple weeks ago, Keith Pompey asks, even though we're winning games, we're struggling against some bad teams. This year has been a roller coaster ride. Yet you're going to sit up here and make fun of us and just say, oh, you never played ball before, so you don't understand. Well, Doc Rivers, you said that last year. You even came at a couple credible reporters who asked if you would take 2-5 out down the stretch of a playoff game because you couldn't hit a free throw, and you went at them like crazy, went at their necks, and then you ended up taking them out. So, in fact, you were wrong in that situation. And although there were a lot of problems last year, 2-5 being the biggest one, you also had blame for that playoff series, Doc. You didn't make the adjustments. It's something you've done time and time again. Look, I'm trying to get behind Doc Rivers and his team. The Sixers would never fire him midseason unless we went on like a 15-game losing streak. So he's here to stay. But am I worried a bit about the playoffs? Yeah, because of the track record. And people tried to tell me that, and I tried to look past it. There's been good things that Doc has done. But right now, there's a lot of bad. It doesn't look inspired, motivated, and it's like, if we have a bad loss and somebody asks him a valid question, he's just going to come right at you. And okay, that's fine, but make it make sense, Doc. You just came off a 24-point loss, or a 24-point blown lead, and a loss against a team that didn't have their top stars. In fact, how ironic is it that it's the team you coached that blew a lead? I mean, come on, man. I'm getting so tired of this. Like, I don't feel... And nobody should feel like we have to consistently address this when we have to worry about the trade situation coming up. We have to worry about getting Joel Embiid the supplementary help that he needs to contend, because he is so all-worldly great this year. He's on even another level compared to what he was last year. And I'm glad everybody, the stands, everybody's coming around to see that. Like, he is so great right now. And he needs that help. And I personally still do not think this team is far, far off. But I think they need a couple key pieces. And it better happen at the deadline. But why do we have to make this so much worse? Why? I just actually came up off the top of my head with something that could have made this situation so much easier. I actually just came up with it right now. You want to hear it? Doc Rivers, how much of this loss do you attribute to coaching? Well, we all... got to be better, and that starts with me. We shouldn't have blown this game. We all have to be better, and we'll get better. and it starts with me. You couldn't have said that. We would have been on to the next one, not worrying about this, but now you have everybody up in flames coming at you, Doc Rivers, because for what, the third, fourth, fifth time, I think, you got in your feelings, you got out of your comfort zone, I guess, and nobody's allowed to ask a question, a valid question after blowing yet another lead. When will we learn? When will we learn? That's really all I got on this situation, guys. On to the next one. Let's go get a W and try to forget about this, but this is a recurring thing, and it's getting very frustrating, just being completely honest with you. But anyway, those are just my thoughts. Let me know what you think down below in the comments section. Like always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one. Peace.
Perfect.